This is Gateway City Sports. This is the Derek King Sports Show. Cardinals, Blues, Mizzou Athletics, Chiefs. He has it covered. The Derek King Sports Show. Only on Gateway City Sports.
How's it going, everybody? Good morning. We've got a lot to talk about today, so we're not going to beat around the bush. We're going to get right after it. We're going to start talking first off on your St. Louis Cardinals. Make a minor adjustment here to this microphone. Have you ever been in a situation where when nothing is ever wrong and nothing is ever in the way, and then when you actually go to do something, everything's wrong and everything's in the way? That seems to be pretty much par for the course for me this week. But regardless, we're here to talk about a lot of important stuff. We're here to talk about the St. Louis Baseball Cardinals. We're going to talk a little bit about the Blues. We're going to talk about a little bit about the NFL lawsuit in St. Louis and what's going on there. And we're going to talk a little bit about the upcoming draft and just kind of some things that's been going on with that. So first things, let's get started with the birds on the bat. By the way, how did you guys like the Sunday batting helmets, the birds on the bat on the Navy cap? I really liked it. I liked it a lot. I thought, hey, that's a nice little change with the batting helmets. I enjoyed it. So, hey, good for them for making that adjustment, making that change, and freshening things up a little bit. And so that's great. So the very first thing that I really want to talk about right now and what's going on with the Cardinals, let's pull over to their record here real quick, and let's talk about the last few games. Okay, so this game we just had yesterday against the Nationals where they won 14-3 in that game. Doesn't it seem to be like that's kind of the case with the Cardinals? That, they're getting run support this year. Problem is pitching is also giving up runs. Let's go back in time over the last 3 games prior to this last game. The Cardinals gave up 9 runs, 9 runs, 5 runs. Now, the 5 runs really wasn't too bad. The Cardinals only scored 2, but 9 runs and 9 runs to the Brewers? To the Brewers. You're going to lose back-to-back games against the Brewers. You won the first one in a 3-game stand against them, 3-1, but you give up 18 runs in 2 games, and you only score a total of 8 between the two. So you had basically a separation of 10 runs between the 2 games. It's ridiculous. Let's go back in time and let's look at those stats on those 2 games and who was pitching and what was happening. Oh, what a surprise in game. I believe this was game 2. This was the game on Saturday on April 10th. Carlos Martinez. What a surprise. 8 hits, 3 earned runs, but man, Tyler Webb just got hammered. 2 hits, 4 earned runs. Andrew Miller gave up a couple. It's just it's showing you where the strengths and the weaknesses are lying in the pitching rotation. I don't think I have to stress anymore to you guys about Carlos Martinez and how I feel about him as far as a starting pitcher is concerned. I think he's a relief pitcher. I think he's a supplemental guy. I think you could, if you want to put him middle relief, you could do that. But 3 innings is his cap. That's it. That's all he's got. And then once you get in past that, he starts having problems. He had 5 innings pitched on that Saturday game. That was it. Your bullpen isn't picking up the slack. Andrew Miller is over the hill. He's done. He's making way too much money. You've got Tyler Webb, who's just clearly just not getting it. He's not turning that around whatsoever. So there's that. Okay, and so in Game 3, the Cardinals had on the mound Daniel Ponce de Leon. And he just got rocked. He only pitched for 1.1 innings, 6 hits, 7 earned runs, 4 walks. I mean, he was just absolutely awful. Awful. It was terrible to watch. It was kind of like watching Rick Ankiel implode again on the mound. It was terrible. It was sad to see. It was sad to watch. It was hard to watch. But this is what you're getting out of the Cardinals starting pitching right now. And until something gets addressed, you could score 5 runs a game. It doesn't matter. You could score 7 runs a game. It doesn't matter. If you're giving up 8, 9, 10 plus runs a game because of your pitching, because of your very, very poor pitching, I don't want to put it all on the back of the bullpen, because it's not the bullpen's fault that the starting pitchers can't go any deeper than 4 or 5 innings. You're going to burn guys out in the bullpen that can only pitch 1-2 innings, and you're asking them to pitch when they're averaging about 40 to 50 innings a year, or let's just go even a little bit more conservative on that, and you're talking about like 30 to 40 innings a year, and what they're averaging out of the bullpen, and you're asking them to pitch 50, 60, longer rides, longer turns. That's just not acceptable. So that's really the first thing that I want to cover is the pitching aspect. Your starting pitching is not getting quality starts. You're not getting guys out there that can go 5, 6, 7 innings. It's not there. I don't want to put all the blame on Carlos Martinez. As much as I dislike Carlos Martinez for his behavior, I don't want to put all the blame on him because it's not just him. Look at Daniel Ponce de Leon. That was just awful and disappointing. The one real thing that I want to stress is this lineup situation. And, I was having a conversation with the one and only GB Sports, also known as Crash. And we were having this conversation the other day, and we were talking specifically about the lineup situation and how frustrated he is, and amongst other Cardinal fans, especially within Gateway City Sports. We talk with some of the writers and talk with some of the other hosts of different shows. Mike's on First, had conversations with him about this particular subject matter and who's trotting who out there and why and what we're doing. And the one thing that consistently comes up and the one thing that we consistently talk about, and this is not just one particular person that I'm going to point out, this is a commonality that we discuss, and that is to where, why are you taking a traditional infielder and you're putting him in the outfield? Tommy Edman is an infielder, third base, shortstop, second base. That's what he does. And you're sticking him out in center field, right field, left field, whatever. It's ridiculous. What are you doing? Mike Shildt, what are you doing? Is it even Mike Shildt making this decision? I would assume that he is, because he's the manager of the club. But it almost seems to me, and I'll take all the blame on this one, I'll put it on my hat, and say, because I'm asking this question legitimately. Why are you taking an infielder and putting him in the outfield where he does not belong? Just for the sake of getting him an at-bat? That's ludicrous. Matt Carpenter can't hit water if he fell out of a boat. He hit a home run yesterday. In all seriousness, good for him. I'm happy for him. He's hopefully broken that slump. But the reality of the situation is you cannot continue to expect to trot Matt Carpenter out there. He is not good. He can't play defense. He can't really hit right now. He's a bench bat. I've said it from the beginning of the season. I've said it since last year. You need to be putting him in a specialty role, in a specialty position. I don't care if he's making $15 million or $18 million or whatever the hell he's making based off of his incentives on his contract. I don't care. I care about winning games. You're paying what you're paying, and you're stuck paying it. Other than that, you're not trading Matt Carpenter. Nobody's going to take him. The unfortunate news the other day coming out that Dexter Fowler, the former Cardinal, has now had his season ended due to a ACL tear in his knee. We wish him the best. We hope he returns and has success, but it does not look good for Mr. Fowler. We're thinking about him, and we hope the best for him and wish him a speedy recovery, but these things are bad. Usually, especially at this point in time in his career, we wish him the best. But for those that are calling for a Matt Carpenter trade or whatever the case is, that's never going to happen. There are some. There's not a ton out there. But the reality is he needs to be a specialty bat. I don't care how much you're paying him. That's just what it is. You're just going to have to eat it. You're going to have to deal with it. You made the dumb contract. Now you got to sit on it. I'm sorry. That's just the way it is. It's, in business, and I've taken a lot of business classes. I've gone through college. I'm an educated man. The fact of the matter is there's a saying that we have in business, and when you make a mistake, you eat it. You take it on the chin. Doesn't mean you have to like it, but you eat the crap. And what we usually call that is stupid tax. When you do something dumb, you pay your stupid tax. Okay, so now you did something dumb. You paid him a lot of money that either you could call it backlogged money that he earned earlier on his career, and you're just paying him his retirement plan, whatever you want to call it, but you're paying your stupid tax. Deal with it. Don't try to run him out there. You're trying to win games. Let's get over it. You're not trying to have I got to get my money back out of this. It's not like you're selling cars, okay? You're trying to win games. You're trying to get to the playoffs. You're trying to get to the championship games. You're trying to get to the World Series. Okay? That's what you're trying to do. Jump over to the comments real quick. Thurman, my man, is over in there. It's time to give reps to Nolan Gorman in the outfield in the minor leagues. That's almost exactly where they're headed. But, I mean, really, why? Would you need to, and I'm not questioning, Thurman, your question, or even either the sincerity of it or the facetiousness of it, but the fact of the matter is that we've got a ton of outfielders right now. Why do we need to do that? Tyler O'Neill's doing decent over there in left field. You've got Dylan Carlson tearing it up in right. Now Harrison Bader's been out with an injury. We'll see how he comes back. But, you still have Lane Thomas out there. He's a good supplement. He's a good fill-in. You've got some options. I still think we need one big outfielder, but I don't think it's going to come from within. Nolan Gorman, I feel, is probably, and I don't want to go out and make any kind of claims here, but just from what I'm seeing on the surface, it looks like Nolan Gorman is being groomed to be the next second baseman. Tommy Edman is good. He's a good bat. He can fill in anywhere in the infield, and maybe he might be that guy. But he's also could be a very good potential shortstop. Don't sleep on the fact that Paul DeJong could be on his way out the door too as well. He's not been playing very well. I know there's a lot of people who say, oh, sacrilege, don't say that. Paul DeJong is great. Well, Paul DeJong hasn't even hit his weight in a batting average. And so I don't really want to go and make any kind of claim that he's going to be that guy. Okay? So I'm really concerned about Paul DeJong's slow start, where he's at as far as a player. What is he going to be? Where is he going to be? Right now, as it stands, he's got a 128 batting average, a 277 OBP, a 282 slugging, and only a 559 OPS. That's really, really bad. That's really bad. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if he's not seeing the ball. I don't know if it's a mental issue. I don't know what it is. But what I can tell you is this does not look good for him as being the everyday shortstop. You cannot carry this kind of weight if all you're going to do is produce those kind of numbers. Let's go back in time over 2017, 2018, 2019, which 2019 was his best year as far as he was an all-star. He played 159 games. He had over 600 plate appearances and almost 600 at-bats. And out of that entire time period during then is in his supposedly his best year. He had a 233 batting average, a 318 OBP, 349 slugging, and a 671 OPS. The 322 OBP is okay, or I'm sorry, the 318 OBP is okay, but it's not as good as what his first year was, which was 325. And then it was 313 his next year and 318 in his third year. He also has a little bit of pop. 25 home runs his first year, 19 his second year, and 30 in his third year. But in 2020, he only hit 3 home runs. He never hit a stride. He hit 250 average. He had a higher slugging than this year, but it was still lower than the previous 3 years. He was well up over 400 or .400 over the last 3 years. So there's a lot of other places that as fans we need to be looking about. And the one thing that I am extraordinarily concerned about is his strikeout rate. 124 his first year, 123, and then 149. He's a real swing and miss. He's a real, either you're going to get everything or you're going to get nothing. He's swinging at balls. He's not hitting balls into play and hitting into double plays and things of that nature and getting out. He is striking out. He is hitting into a lot of double plays. I will give you that. He is hitting into a lot of double plays, but he's striking out a lot. Now, I want to go to one other person, and I'm going to pull up some of these numbers, and I want to stress something, and this is something I want to point out that's very important. It's one of the greatest Cardinals ever had, right? Hitting wise and defensively, really, to be honest with you. I want to give you some of these numbers, and I want to see what you guys think. And these are strikeouts. And this is let's say, a 5-year window. Yeah, let's do a 5-year window on this. The strikeouts for this individual was 167, 136, 134, 127, 150, and 139. Over those years, that individual had a batting average of 295, 304, 311, 275, 301, and 263. Over those same amount of years, that individual took 103 walks, 93 walks, 86 walks, 77 walks, 101 walks, and 91 walks. That's a good amount of walks. I also want to point out the RBIs. 108, 110, 83, 89, 111, 89. And the last thing that I truly want to point out that's significant to the cause, home runs. 42, 30, 28, 39, 42, 29. These right here will tell you a lot, but when you start looking at the OPS and the OBP, and some of your slugging, but really the OBP and the OPS and the OPS plus, those are really where you start to see some definite changes in the numbers. Let's look at OBP for this player. 411, 410, 420, 385, 418, 385. That's on OBP. Now, on OPS, that same individual had 994, 974, 981, 1002, or 1.002, and 1.0061, and 918. This player that we're talking about here had a high strikeout total, but was still hitting a higher average, or a high enough average, was still smashing some home runs, and was still getting walks. As in comparison to, and this is a small sample size, but to Paul DeJong in his first, let's just say 3 years. This is now year 5. Okay, we got to kind of say year 2020, year 4 was a wash for him. But as up to his first 3 years, and you guys kind of get an idea of what that first set of number was on that last player that we had discussed and we had talked about as far as batting was concerned. And his Paul DeJong strikeouts are 124, 123, 149. But the batting average, 285, 241, 233. OBP, now remember, the last player was well into the 4s in most occasions, definitely in the 3s. 325, 313, 318, and we're kind of going over these numbers again, I know, but OPS, 857, 746, 762. These numbers are nowhere close. Let's look at the strikeouts. 124, 123, 149. Let's look at those again. Let's look at the RBIs. 65, 68, 78. Nowhere close to the last player. Home runs. 25, 19, 30. Close, but still lower. That last player that I referred to happened to be the great Jim Edmonds. I remember everybody saying, well, Jim Edmonds, he's the type of player to where he's going to strike out a lot. Well, yeah, he is going to strike out a lot, but he's going to hit a lot of home runs too. But he got on base, and he hit a lot. So for the times that he was getting up to bat, he was hitting his balls. He was hitting doubles. He was hitting home runs. He was doing it. He was getting on base. He was taking walks. His batting average was good because he was getting hits. His OBP was good because he was getting what? On base percentage. He was getting on base. That's what we're looking at here. Not only is Paul DeJong, he's hitting some home runs, but his batting average is bad because he's not hitting the balls. He's striking out a lot. And whatever he is hitting, he's hitting on the ground, and he's getting thrown out at first. He's not making solid contact. He's going over the top of balls. Or he's going underneath balls and he's popping them up. Why is that? What's the one thing that wasn't around during that? It might have been around a little bit, but it really wasn't around to where it is now. And that's the launch angle. Jim Edmonds wasn't worrying about launch angle back in the early mid-2000s. But Paul DeJong seems to be all concerned about it. It's the same problem Matt Carpenter has. They're worried about launch angle. And they're getting underneath the ball when they're hitting. Or they're swinging a little bit too late. They're going over the top of the ball. They're getting a little too early, going underneath it. It depends on what type of pitch they're getting and what type of sequence. But instead of trying to say, okay, this is my pitch, this is what I want to hit, this is what I'm going to look for. Any of the breaking stuff, I'm not even going to sniff at it. I'm not even going to look at it. I'm waiting for that fastball. I'm waiting on that upper level fastball to where I could get on it and I could turn it down the third baseline if I'm a right-handed batter. Or if I'm a right-handed batter, I want to slap it between first and second and score the runner from second. Whatever it is, a situational hitting. But these guys are more worried about getting paid and getting their contracts and padding their stats than they are worried about playing solid, fundamental baseball and getting on base. This is a problem with Paul DeJong. It continues to be the problem with Matt Carpenter. I'm going to beat this drum to death because it's a fact. Whether you want to believe it or you don't want to believe it, the fact of the matter remains to be the same. It's obvious this is what's going on. So that's all I'm going to talk about that because we've talked about it before. We've beat that to death. The Cardinals now, at this point in time, are looking pretty decent. Can't complain, right? So let's go in and let's look at where we're at in the standings right now in the NL Central. We're in second place behind the Reds. The Reds were supposed to stink this year. Actually, the Reds weren't supposed to stink. The Reds were supposed to be kind of right there with the Cardinals and the Brewers. The Cubs are supposed to stink. The Pirates are supposed to stink. But everybody kind of thought the Cubs were going to be a little bit better than they were. Maybe they turned it on a little bit later. But the Cardinals are in second place at 6-5. The Reds are in first at 7-4. So there's a game difference. The last 10 games, the Reds have been on a 7-3 run where the Cardinals have been 500, 5-5. So that's something that hopefully the Cardinals can get turned around. They can get adjusted. The next set of upcoming games after this next game with the Nationals today at 12:15, I believe that will be on Bally Sports, if I'm not mistaken, formerly Fox Sports Midwest. But then we start a 3-game stand with the Phillies at that point in Philadelphia. And that'll run Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So there's your next set of games. It's really important that the Cardinals pick up today's game and they pick up 2 of 3 from the Phillies. It's critically important. You do not want to drop out this early in the standings and fall back that far back, considering the Central is not that strong this year. You really want to get back out, and you want to get out in front, and you really want to take charge of this division, and you really want to get after that. Okay, so we've covered the Cardinals. We've talked about their situation, the pitching woes, the hitting woes, so on and so forth. But one of the things I want to talk about today, too, as well, is your St. Louis Blues. And now, the Blues, since really just stinking it up, I mean, really bad, there for a little while, they've really turned it around as of late. And they've really started getting out there, winning some games, winning some close games, winning some games in OT. And that's really, really good. We're going to go over to the standings right now. And as far as in the Western Division, they are in 4th place right now in the Western Division. They've played 41 games. They are 19-16. They've had 6 overtime losses. They have 44 points, 119 GF. On the GA, it's 128, -9 differential. Oof, that's not great. You need to kind of turn that around. Over the last 10, which they have turned that around because they were 0-6-1 prior to this 3-game win streak where we're at now. But the big thing that I'm really excited about is Schwartz. And I really think that Schwartz is going to have a good game, okay, tonight. That's a 6:30 game with the Avalanche. I'm really thinking he's probably going to be our star of the game today because if he's not the one scoring points, he's definitely going to be the guy that's assisting. I think that it's crucially important the Blues have to pick up this game. As Jordan Bennington said a few days ago, we're coming. And they are coming, and I'm glad he said that, and I'm glad. And this really kind of goes back to, remember when Jordan Bennington went around the ice and had his little escapade here, about a month ago or so? That kind of changed things. And, now that Vladimir Tarasenko's back in the fold, unfortunately with Thomas being out due to injury and a couple other players out due to injury, it's really not helping the team much. But with Schwartz not being there for a while, that was really not good for them. And so I'm glad to see that, come about because we really needed him over on the left wing. So that's really good. I'm really happy about that. And if you're going to sit there and tell me that if you've got Sanford and Blias out there on your left wing is your 2 top left wing, you're in trouble. Mike Hoffman can't carry the whole thing. You need Schwartz out there. And so that's really going to help quite a bit. So I'm going to be excited. I'm going to be paying attention. I'm going to be watching the games. And hopefully we could be able to turn this thing around. I really want to see certain particular players kind of pick it up and start to kind of run with it. Because I think there's been other players that have been expected to do things that haven't done things, and they really needed to kind of turn it around. So that's kind of where we're at on that. Now, we're going to jump over to the comments here real quick. Let's see. Jason, my man, give the Blues time. They've had some setbacks. Absolutely. They have had a lot of setbacks, a lot of injury setbacks, which is killer. And, you have a guy or a gal, in whatever sport that you're following that gets hurt. They're going to have that time to come back, to get back into the swing of things, back up to the game speed. It's going to take a little bit. It's not going to be an overnight success. You're just hoping that you can get some of that stuff done. So that's that. So, yeah. The other thing that I want to talk about is the St. Louis lawsuit and what's going on there. And what I'm going to do is I am going to because we usually do the interview screen right here. This is usually our fade. And what we usually do is we do a browser capture. We go over to our thing, and we'll do that, and we'll go ahead and we'll pull that up. But it's really hard for you guys to see kind of what's going on with that. What I'm going to do in the future is I'm probably going to make an entire screen, and hopefully the resolution will be good enough for you guys to be able to read it. But this is over on courts.mo.gov. And one of the things that you guys need to make sure that you do as far as the case number is concerned, it's 1722-CC for Circuit Court 00976. So this is critically important. If you guys want to follow the case and you guys want to see what's kind of going on as far as the filings and stuff, the docket entries, then that's where you want to go. That's what you want to check out. So as of the beginning of April, let's go back actually a little bit. Let's kind of take a step back on this. Ever since that there has been an extension, because remember it was supposed to happen in October, and now they've filed that extension of the court date to be pushed out until the beginning of next year because of the fact of COVID and the courts not being open. So they have rescheduled it from October 25th of 2021 to January 10th of 2022. So that is the rescheduled date where this is going to be held in court. Okay, so that's what's going on with that thing right now. But as of now, and it shouldn't be shocking to anyone that has followed the NFL or followed it like I have or some other people that have, the great Howard Balzer, himself, he's one of the smartest guys in the media that knows and understands football and the players and kind of the business side of things. And I mean, just some of this stuff, it shouldn't surprise you. Just as like, my having conversations with Howard or any other person that really understands football, this is not really surprising where the NFL is trying to once again weasel out of having to have this heard in open court. This is where I continue to tell everybody that you need to understand the NFL does not want this heard in open court whatsoever. This will not go to open court. They're trying to get it filed under seal to where nobody can see it and nobody can hear it and nobody can know what's going on. Because if the people found out how the NFL operates its business and how these business procedures are done, people flat would not do business with the NFL. It just would not happen. They're continuing to file certificates of service and things to have filed under seal and all these other different types of things of what they're trying to do, which is just a load of crap. Because all they're trying to do is to keep their dirty laundry from being aired, and the fact that they screwed over St. Louis. There was a slight screwing that went on with San Diego, but Oakland, they didn't have their stuff together from the beginning. They promised Al Davis when he moved back to Oakland they were going to build a new stadium, do all this. They never did it. Now I don't put all the blame on Oakland, but they're financially just strapped. I mean, they have no money. They're in big, huge trouble. They can't compete with San Francisco across the bay. They're in a lot different situation. San Diego, on the other hand, is just kind of like either stay or go. We're not going to sit here and hold your feet to the fire. This is where it starts to get interesting. Because the latest rumor is that the San Diego franchise, the Spanos family, is broke. And Dee Spanos, the sister of Dean Spanos, is now charging them in court with of that the organization is broke, the family is broke, they don't have any money, and he's taking out loans to cover other loans to make payments. That's a really dangerous, slippery slope if that is the case, if that is the fact. Now, other things that I have heard, and this comes directly from sports talk entities that are coming out of the Southern California market, that are coming out of San Diego and LA and everything else. They're all saying the same thing. Now, whether they're getting the same talking points or not, I do not know. But the point of the matter is it just continues to keep coming out of those entities. So I'm going to kind of take that and run with it. I have also heard through other areas and other avenues that there is some factual evidence to the fact that the Spanos family is in dire financial straits. They are in trouble. They have been in trouble for some time, and the NFL has known it for some time. The dirty laundry, I believe that what the NFL does not want you to know, I'm going to go ahead and tell everybody right now. If you're listening to this, make sure you share it out to your friends, anybody that's questioning what's going on. Dean Spanos has crippled this organization, and I think that this organization was crippled whenever they were in San Diego, and the entire idea of the move from San Diego to Los Angeles was for one reason and one reason only. What a shock, right? It was to cash in. It was to up the value of the team in order to turn around and sell them in just a few years. The original plan, from what I am understanding, was about 2024, 2025 to sell the team outright and make money. Because the rich just get richer, right? Okay, well, that's what's apparently happening in this particular case with the Spanos family, and Dee has just outed her brother and the rest of the Spanos family as being crooked and just trying to make more money. Instead of selling the team in San Diego, they looked at it and said, hey, we can invest $600 million in moving the team, irregardless of if we have a stadium or not. It's going to double the value of the team or whatever the case would be. Instead of us selling it for, a couple of billion here, we might be able to sell it for $3 billion in Los Angeles. And you take away the $600 million, we might make an extra $500 million. But now that's kind of coming back to bite them in the butt. Now the newest rumor-ish, has been Jeff Bezos, the owner of Amazon. Everybody knows who Amazon is. Has been groomed for quite some time and discussed and talked about being an NFL owner. As of late, up until prior of the Los Angeles Chargers situation and what's happening there with the Spanos family, he was rumored to be coming in to potentially be making a power play on the Washington football team franchise, which there's a lot of owners and a lot of other fans that want Daniel Snyder out as an owner, present company included. But the fact of the matter is I didn't really see how that was going to potentially be a possibility versus where we're at with the Los Angeles Chargers situation. Now, here's where it gets sticky. And we're going to switch back from this because we're not really talking about the St. Louis lawsuit again at this point. The San Diego / Los Angeles Chargers situation, there's a lot of fans, there's a lot of people that feel like Jeff Bezos is going to buy the team and he's going to move them back to San Diego. Yay! He ain't moving them back to San Diego, folks. It ain't happening. He's in the number 2 television market in Los Angeles. He's got a $1 lease in that brand new $1 billion stadium. I'll tell you exactly what's going to happen if it happens this way. But I will tell you right now. So you could just go ahead and go tonight. You can go to bed. You can lay your head down on the pillow and go to sleep, and you'll be fine. It's this simple. If Jeff Bezos buys the team, and I think that's probably where they're trying to head, he is probably going to invest money into the Kroenke Stadium deal and buy half the stadium. It just makes total sense. He rescues Kroenke because Kroenke's took on this whole entire load on his own. He rescues him, buys some of that out, gets this deal done. He gets the Chargers, everything else. They're 50-50 in the market. He ain't leaving L.A. He ain't going to take the Chargers and move them back to San Diego, which is a top 25 market. St. Louis and San Diego are kind of right there. St. Louis is kind of right around number 20. San Diego is, it fluctuates a little bit, but it's kind of right around there too. Same thing. But really, really close. And so if anybody wants to sit there and say, oh, he's going to buy him and move him back to San Diego, you're full of crap. You don't know what you're talking about. So let it go. It goes same with all you San Diego fans out there. The have hosts of sports talk shows, and you think that Jeff Bezos is going to come in and he's going to move him back to San Diego? You're out of your mind. It would be like somebody saying that the Bush family in St. Louis is going to buy the Jets and move them from New York and move them to St. Louis. That's ludicrous. Why would you move them out of the number 1 television market in the United States and move them to the number 20? And for what? For the sake of just moving them to St. Louis because you're from St. Louis? That just doesn't make any good business sense. They're billionaires for a reason. They've made billions being cutthroat business people. And they're going to continue to make billions. So let's not forget about that. Let's jump over to comments here real quick. Got a little couple things we need to cover on. Thurman says that we'll get the NBA/NFL in St. Louis despite the reluctance of the mayor-elect. That's a whole nother story for a different day. We don't get into politics on this. I have talked to him privately about people with politics and what things go on there. It does have an effect on what happens, but that's what Thurman's opinion is. He also says it's time for David Stewart to put a group together to try to buy the Chargers. I don't foresee that happening. David Stewart is not going to do that. I don't see him doing anything, really, to be honest with you. I haven't heard him on any kind of radar anywhere. Yeah, he has money. Yeah, he has the capability. But would he be part of a group? Possibly. But I don't really see that, and I haven't heard that. Jason says business after interest. Still hardly any money made. It's true. Jason also says the charities they fund will suffer, and that's also a fact. Look at how many charities were left in the lurch in the city of St. Louis after the Rams decided to bounce and go make billions over there. There was a whole bunch of charities that were named in honor of the Rams organization here in St. Louis, and there was only one person that came to the rescue. And that was Michael Bidwell and the Arizona Cardinals. They came in and they wrote checks and they took care of it. That just tells you the kind of organization that they are. So if any of you guys want to be fans of a football team, there you go. Be fans of the Arizona Cardinals. I'm a fan of the team. I'm a fan of the organization. I like the way that they're ran. They're caring people. They're thoughtful people. Just shows what they do in the city of St. Louis. Got to remember, Michael's from here. He was born and raised here. He was raised for a portion of his life out in Arizona, but the fact of the matter is that he has a degree from here in St. Louis. He's from there, from here. So, that's the way that you got to view some of this stuff. And as a person who used to be a very blind fan of the NFL, of the business, and now I've become, as they would say in the wrestling world, I was a mark at first, okay? Then I became a smart mark. Now I'm just smart to the business, okay? And that's kind of how I am with the NFL. I'm just smart for the business. I know how they operate. I know how they're operating on a business standpoint. Thurman pops in and says, seems like the only hope for the NFL coming back to St. Louis is the Jaguars. I would agree with that if you're talking about a relocation. There's still a slight chance that the Chargers could be a possibility, but now that everything has kind of developed the way that it has and everything went the way that it did, I don't see that being the case. I think the Chargers are there was a possibility there early on. I said 25-30% early on. We're talking here a couple of years back. That there was that possibility, but now I don't think that that's the case with the Chargers. I do think that the Jaguars are potentially the best chance at a team relocation anytime soon, but we'll just have to wait and see. They have two St. Louis area natives that are running that team. Natives, but people who not necessarily natives. I don't know the entirety of Mark Lamping's life and career, but he was the president of the St. Louis Baseball Cardinals up until 1994. So he understands the market and he gets it. So there's a possibility there. Obviously, Mr. Khan, the owner of the team, is a native of the St. Louis region, the St. Louis area, so he knows it and he understands it. And that could be a very good possibility. Jason says that Michael might be our best chance to get a team. I think as a vocal supporter, absolutely. I think Michael would definitely be a very good person to have as a vocal supporter of getting another team in the St. Louis market. And so, yeah, I would agree with that to a certain extent. He said his support might be our best chance. Yeah, so I finally got that to scroll down in the chat there. So, yeah, absolutely, Jason, you're 100% correct. As a matter of fact, you're so good on that, I'm going to like both of those comments. So there you go. Thurman says the wild card team could be or would be the Bills. I would say more could be than would be. I highly doubt it. The Pagulas have made it very clear that they want to stay in that Buffalo market. I don't necessarily think the Bills are going anywhere. They're Buffalo. That's what they are. If they move, they're going to be selling that team. I mean, there's no way around it. I mean, they already own the Buffalo Sabres. They're involved in that market. They're deep in that market. I don't really see any other avenue for them unless they're moving to a really huge market. They kind of tested the waters on the Toronto thing. That's just not going to happen. Toronto's kind of out the door. I see Jason had just brought that up. Toronto's done. I have it on very, very good knowledge that the Toronto window has closed on there being a team there anytime soon. Would I like to see a team in Toronto? Sure. I mean, I wouldn't have any problem with seeing a team in Toronto, but I don't see that it's going to be the Bills. I think the Bills are going to stay in Buffalo. I think they're going to end up getting a deal done there at some point in time here in the near future. I would say here in the next year, 2 years. But I think the Bills are going to be staying in Buffalo. I think the NFL wants that. I think the fans want that. And I think that it's just probably the best thing to do. It's kind of the same way I feel about the Chargers being out of San Diego. They belong in San Diego. They should have stayed in San Diego. That's really kind of how I feel about it. It's kind of the way I feel about the Cardinals being in St. Louis. They should be in St. Louis. They should still be in St. Louis. And the Rams should have stayed in L.A. They're right back where they belonged. And that's kind of how I feel about it. And that's the way I think that it'll go. Thurman says that the CA government is not going to, the Canada government is not going to let the NFL destroy the CFL, and that's true. And that's kind of a lot of the reason of why I feel that the NFL is not going to infringe on the Canadian market. And obviously there's that continued rumor that keeps getting put around of that there's an imminent deal that's going to get done between the XFL and the CFL. That remains to be seen. What I'm really kind of thinking is going to end up being and this is just my opinion, okay? I have no facts to base this. This is just the way I think and the way I feel. The XFL will eventually be a coffer system, a feeder system for the NFL at some point in time. Whether or not they have a relationship with the CFL or whatever that ends up being, I think it's going to be a stopgap from between college and the pros, to where guys can go and they can play for 2 years, 3 years, hone their skills, get a little bit better, so that way they can come into the NFL. I think that's really where the niche is for the XFL. I think you're talking about a 3-year period for a lot of players. This is where they really need to be in order to hone their skills, get a little bit better, learn the system. And I think that's probably what we're talking about here. I think there's so many similarities. I watched and enjoyed the XFL very thoroughly for its short period of time that it was around. Went down to the very first game, the very first Battlehawks game between them and the Renegades down in Dallas or the Arlington, right there at the former Rangers Stadium down there, Texas Rangers Stadium down there in Arlington, Texas. Not far from the Cowboy Stadium and all that stuff. But, yeah, I see a lot of similarities there, and I think that that's possibly where we're going to be headed with something like that. But we'll just have to wait and see. I think that about covers it, but we're going to touch a little bit before we get out of here on the draft. I think the only slam dunk we're talking about here is, like I said in the last show, it's Trevor Lawrence at number 1, the Jacksonville Jaguars, or whatever city Jaguars they're going to be, or whatever team they're going to end up being here in the next few years. Because they're not staying in Jacksonville. So we could be very clear about that. This is their future move. Wherever they end up being, whether that be in London or St. Louis or Saskatchewan, it doesn't really matter. They're going to end up being somewhere else. They're not going to be in Jacksonville. I don't foresee, because there's too many pieces of the puzzle that are starting to head in that direction, to where I saw it with the Rams, I saw it with the Cardinals in St. Louis, I saw it with the Browns in Cleveland, I saw it with the Chargers in San Diego and the Raiders in Oakland and every other team, the Oilers in Houston. I've seen it with a lot of other teams and how they operated and what they did, and this is probably one of the best handled potential moves that I've seen in a long, long time. So I think that's where it's going. Jason believes that Lawrence is the new Todd Maravich. I disagree. I think that Lawrence is... I've watched a considerable amount of Lawrence's career in Clemson, and he's really good. I watched Peyton Manning, right, in Tennessee, because, I thankfully, central kind of television market, early mid-90s, I could watch a lot of Peyton's games. And let me tell you something about Peyton Manning. I see a lot of Peyton Manning, Trevor Lawrence, vice versa. But remember, Peyton really didn't have a good first year whenever he came in with the Colts and stuff like that. So I don't, and plus he's getting a really good team built around him. He's getting I think a real good coach. They would say that quote from Star Wars Episode 1, we will watch your career with great interest. And that's where I feel about Lawrence and where he's going. We will watch his career with great interest. I think with Lawrence, you're definitely not going to get something of the level of a Ryan Leaf, not something of that like big bomb, but I really think that he's going to be pretty good. Thurman says, how do you think Jay Morant and Trevor Lawrence will handle to the St. Louis market? If I think they would be slam dunks. I don't really think that they would have any problem assimilating to this market if they were to come to this market. I think it would be great. I think it would be great for him. But I think Trevor Lawrence is kind of one of those. It depends on how he creates his persona and markets himself. I think it's really going to be greatly dependent on how he is viewed in the future going forward amongst the fans and amongst other players and peers and so on and so forth. So we'll just have to wait and see. Well, guys, we are coming up on an hour. This has been a really jam-packed show. We've had a lot of information, a lot of stuff going on. But I'm going to go ahead and cut it there because, hey, we've had a great show. We've had lots to talk about, but we're going to be back next week like we always are, every Wednesday at 9 a.m., and we'll have more to talk about. So this is Derek King on the Derek King Sports Show. Glad to have you guys on. Had a great time. I hope to see you back soon. All right, you guys take care and have yourself a great weekend. I know I will. See ya.
This is the Derek King Sports Show. Cardinals, Blues, Mizzou Athletics, Chiefs. He has it covered. The Derek King Sports Show. Only on Gateway City Sports.